I'm going to introduce someone that I keep saying needs no introduction, because if you ever see All World magazines or the All World website, Hisham ElFarouki's picture is absolutely everywhere. And as I like to say, he is the apply now button. So Hisham is very, very well known to All World, but he's known far beyond our world. He is one of the most successful entrepreneurs of the region, grew a food services business in the bakery business, grew it quite fast and quite large, so he knows a lot about fast-growing companies, sold it for quite a large amount, and decided perhaps he would try the other side. Sometimes we as entrepreneurs have mixed emotions about that we lost him to the other side, but we're so glad he's on that other side. He is now with one of the biggest investment enterprises in the world, which is NCB Capital and Eastgate Capital, NCB being the largest bank by assets in the Middle East. And so Hisham brings both sides of the coin to think about emerging markets, to think about investment, to think about entrepreneurship. Also, I hope you all know that NCB and Eastgate have been a very big supporter of the Arabia 500, and all that came before the Arabia 500 was the Arabia 500. They have supported us for 4 years. And that's ever since we started, and that's a lot of Hisham as well. And when we did the Arabia 500 Awards, I said, Hisham not only did that, he did the most important thing. The first company we ever found in the region to begin this whole process, company number 1, came from Hisham. So Hisham is going to lead a discussion with some of the entrepreneurs and others on the panel. And I think what you can have through him is a multifaceted discussion and experience about where this region is going. So I'd like you to warmly welcome Hisham and the panelists on the stage and engage with them in some tough questions. Where are we going and what does it look like?
Anne is always too generous with her words. She always humbles me. So thank you, Anne, for that lovely introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hisham ElFarouki, and I would like to personally thank each and every one of you for joining us. This is, as you know, the post-lunch, last day of the conference. I've probably held 67 meetings in the past 24 hours, afternoon session. So again, thank you for being here. What I can promise you is that if you are looking for optimism, positive energy, real momentum, and those rarest of post-crisis attributes, economic growth and value creation, you've come to the right session. For amongst our panelists, we not only have representatives from some of the hottest markets in the world, India, Turkey, Indonesia, and the GCC, but we have the most successful and dynamic business leaders from these economies. Individuals who are active across sectors as diverse as plastics, gummy candy production, warehousing logistics, and venture capital. I hope you are all as excited to hear from them as I am to learn from them. So let's get started. Introducing first, Mr. Amrutesh Reddy is the Executive Director of Continental Warehousing Corporation, one of the largest logistics companies in India. Remember, 1.3 billion people. He's active in road, rail, and air infrastructure. Mr. Yohanes, thank you. Mr. Yohanes Teja is the CEO of YUPI. I love this company, an Indonesian world-class gummy candy producer that is present in more than 40 countries worldwide and that has over 4,000 team members. Right next to him is Mr. Yavuz Eroglu, the CEO and founder of SEMPlastik Turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, all I am going to say is that Mr. Eroglu's company was ranked as the fastest growing company in Turkey in 2011 on the Arabia 500 list. And I am also personally proud that Mr. Eroglu's business activities also encompass Palestine, where he has a plastic manufacturing facility there. So that absolutely blew me away. Finally, I would like to introduce Mr. Scott Gillespie, founder of the Jigsaw Group and commercialization partner of T2VC. T2VC is based in Silicon Valley, but Scott is based here in the UAE. As per his unique title, Scott is an ecosystem and venture architect. So let's get started. Amrutesh, let me begin with you. The session is about fast growth companies and winning strategies for emerging markets. Tell me, what have been some of the key drivers of success for your respective business?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the UAE government for this opportunity and for the GEC Summit. Fast growth companies in India have predominantly been on a long-term strategy. So one of the premium things we actually look at India is long-term. One of the major reasons why we had investors coming in early into India and have lost some money also is the short-term strategies, what they had in mind, or the huge amount of returns, what they actually looked at on round one. So predominantly long-term is number one for any business to start in India, because we actually are a large country, so we actually need to have a spread to actually earn money in India. So it's not going to be a one place kind of thing or whatever. That's one. The second most important thing we actually need to keep in mind is CSR on jobs is not a quotient in India. So because we actually lack some of the vocational skills, which we're actually catching up on now. So we actually believe in training. So training and capitalizing and holding on to the people is second most important thing what we see in an emerging economy, because in any emerging economy, you have a shortage of vocationalists at a particular point of time, and we also have a shortage of skilled manpower. So we have seen a growth in the last 5 to 7 years where we have seen industrial activity picking up hugely, because now we have been focused more on that, and we'll be able to get a very good amount of people for the right jobs. The next important strategy, what we see as a long-term strategy, is to have the right partners and the long-term partners. It's not about earning money overnight. So that's point number one, where we had investors who actually, because we as a company has grown predominantly with FDI. We actually had more than $100 billion in the last 5 years, or even more. Even in this market, I think over the last 8 months, we had $20 billion flow, both in the stock market as well as into PE funding. So FDI money is very important for that. And for that, we actually need to choose very, very good investors who understand your business and who can help you grow. Because debt funding in Asia is still at 13-14%. So which actually kills you on a very long term, on a very high debt. So we actually need a good mix of equity and debt where we come from. So choosing a right partner as a financial partner or investors is very important for you to grow in India, because capital investments are pretty expensive. So this, I think, would be the key drivers. And lastly, environment and local environment. So India is a democracy, so everyone gets to speak whatever they want and the thing. So as a democracy, you need to have the local sentiments in mind and act accordingly. So we are not as privileged as China on that, so we can do whatever we want. So that actually helps us to balance our country as a whole, and actually has taken our growth on a very, very stable manner all across. So in India, I would say long term, and you can earn money only in the long term. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Amrutesh. Yohanes, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. In my experience, the key drivers for success, if you like, is universal. I think it is not because we are from a developing country that the key drivers for success are different. In my experience, our key success, if you like, has been based on understanding of the market, and you need to have a good product to start off with, because without a good quality product, I think your chances of success are going to be minimal. Number two is marketing, how you build your brand and how you let consumers know of your products. And in Indonesia, in this instance, product quality is somehow a challenge, or maybe it is a stigma. So in some sense, it provides some sort of barrier to our selling initiative or selling intention to other countries. But how do we go over it is by having the right quality product. How? One is we invested in the right equipments, if you like, so we don't cut corners, we don't invest on the lower quality equipments, because that way you're going to have a good quality product. What I can say now is product quality in our business is very critical.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yavuz, what are your thoughts? What have been some of the key drivers to your success in Turkey and regionally?
First of all, I'd like to say quality is more important than the quantity. So thank you very much for listening to us, these qualified listeners. You know, the key drivers for our business or for any other business of this topic, of this panel, is emerging markets. I have to tell that what are the circumstances that affect a business in an emerging market. First of all, when we are talking about an emerging market, it mainly means a market that's always changing. The market is not mature, it's not well established, the rules are not there. This is what my friend is telling about the quality. This is also a fact, because there is no real rules in the market. And finance is a little bit a lack. It's not like the mature markets. Property rights are not at the right place, like the well-mature markets. And sometimes the environment is not so good. We are talking about maybe the political elites are too strong, the big elites are too strong to affect the politics. And then the environment for the small and medium SMEs to start the business, it's hard. So we can increase this one, but the main thing, we are talking about an emerging market, it is talking about the environment. The environment you do the business. This is the main difference between an emerging market and the well-established market, developed market. So we are coming from markets, and especially me, myself, also coming from market, which is an emerging market. So all these subjects that I mentioned here are a part of our daily business. So we have to overcome this business compared to the other guys over there in the developed countries. So this is the main challenge what we have to do. And the answer to these challenges is very simple. It's only one thing. So there is a lot of change, there is no rule, and then it comes the adaptation. So the main key driver of any business in an emerging market must be, it should be very adaptable business. So I can tell you, I can give you more details of my business, but I'm not going to go into details how we do the plastics, our strategy, that's something else. But the main issue in an emerging market is to adapt. So we adapt in our businesses each day to different circumstances. I think this is the key point of success in any emerging business.
Thank you, Yavuz. That's a great perspective on it. Thank you so much. Scott, you come from amongst all the panelists with a unique sort of background in that based in Silicon Valley, but now you've come to an emerging market in the Middle East, in the wider Middle East, and you're very active in Palestine. What have you seen, what have you come to understand as some of the key drivers to the development of this region and other markets that you've probably operated in?
Thank you, Hisham. Interesting question on multiple levels, and I'm going to agree with my colleagues here, but I'm going to make an observation. They're no longer dealing with small and medium enterprise. these are the giants of industry. They've grown up and built some beautiful industries, and they're the kind of things that we aspire to be. So I'm going to encourage everyone to look to these guys as role models, because they've done some phenomenal things. So relative to your question, Hisham, what would be some of the drivers that we've seen across a dozen emerging markets, including Palestine, Saudi, Colombia, which is right next to Yemen, is number one, sales. There seems to be a great challenge, especially in the Middle East, towards selling. It's viewed as something beneath an accountant for most people. Sales is a skill that needs to be cultivated, developed, and attract the right people. And I strongly suggest that anybody who can get salespeople on their team, please attract them, and please work on sales skills. Second is CF. CF has two meanings to us. First, it's cash flow. If you don't have cash flow, you don't have a business. You have a desperate environment. And two, it means co-founder. For most of the early stage ventures that we deal with or growth businesses, try not to be a solopreneur that leads people beneath you. Get a co-founder or two so that you can go forward with some really skilled people. And getting talent is really, really important across the world. The last one is mentors. All of us are good at something. A few of us claim to be great at everything. And the hardest part, I was thinking of you, PK. The hardest part really is to find people that can coach you to that next level. So in sports, even the top pros in any of the industries or any of the sports have a coach. In business or in early stage ventures, I strongly encourage getting mentors early to help you to go to the next level.
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to change script a little bit here, guys, okay? You've talked about some of the challenges, so I'm going to move down the list, and we're going to talk about how today we live in a globalized world in which organizations have ever greater reach, a world where global brands are ever increasingly targeting your specific economies to tap into growth opportunities. They are infringing on your turf. They're competing. So how does one compete against that? You now, as business leaders within your communities, having built these larger organizations, how does one compete against that? How does one create a sustainable and a winning strategy?
I can talk for India. 70% of our GDP is from service sector, 12% from agri, and the balance from industrial and stuff like that. So when brands come into India, the biggest one which is hitting the 70% market they're looking at, which we call it as retailing, or we call it as whatever thing you want. When we talk about brands coming into India, we actually have some strong brands built in India itself. And I think we are actually open to merging with them, and we are actually open to growing them across. But what the brands are failing, or what I'm seeing some of the failed brands is, they actually come and own the entire thing, and they want to capture the whole market individually. I think UAE has set a very good example where you have a local partner for any business you start. So India that doesn't have those rules in some of the FDI policies, but it actually really works well to have a partner in India. So the only thing I would say the brands is, whenever they come in, they'll succeed only with a good Indian brand partnership, at least for the first few years. That's one. And competitiveness-wise, I think we are a terribly competitive country. So where the education levels are really high at the metro. So competition for foreigners has not been very easy. Foreign brands not been very easy in India because of the inbuilt costs which have absorbed for starting up a company in India has been pretty high. Because you actually build, like my friend Yohanes said, the branding strategy is very, very important for any other developing market. We actually love to go for brands at that particular point, not the expensive ones, but branding. So spending that kind of money, the big brands can afford, of course. So I really don't think that bringing in any amount of brands into India is not going to affect the local companies, especially into service. Though that's my view on the brands.
That's a great perspective. So bring them on, huh? Yohanes, your thoughts? You now compete in 40 countries, so now you've become this sort of global brand, but what about sort of the major global players that are coming into your home geographies? How would you protect against that?
In our experience, we have competitive edge at the moment with regard to our capability in packing our products in more manual fashion. In the developed countries, I think labor cost is so high, so it prohibits you from making products in certain packaging formats. In our case, we are still very lucky that we can still manage to sell products that are manually packaged. In our current factory, we employ about 4,000 workers. Largely, they are manual workers, manually packaging our candy. We cannot continue to focus on this strategy for long, because as we know it, the pressure of labor wages is happening across the world. So I think we have to move just from cost to something else. So I think it is not a strategy that is sustainable, let's say in 10, 20 years down the line. But currently, that is our competitive edge. But while we are doing it, we continue on building the product quality. Product innovation is critical. I think it is universal in any other categories, but we specifically in our strategy to develop products that are innovative. So in the context of gummy candy, for instance, if you just produce regular candy, gummy bears, everybody can make that. From Turkey, China, you name it, Vietnam and all. But if you start putting value-added things into it, we call it a functional gummy. You add in omega-3, for instance, you add in AA, DHA, beta-carotene, like antioxidant, or even caffeine. So then you talk about something else. So you're not competing on cost, or on price. So you're competing on adding value. And in the way we make our product as well, if you come up with some basic item, the name of the game is just price. So your customers will window shop from 2 or 5 different countries and get the cheapest possible offer. But if you can come up with something that is different, that is difficult for others to make, then you have an edge, and that is sustainability to me.
Thank you, Yohanes. Yavuz?
Yeah, just a minute ago, I have mentioned the disadvantages of an emerging market. But this question is about the advantages of an emerging market, because our countries are emerging markets, and these global guys, they want to be in our markets, because our markets are the ones that are powering the economies at the moment, and that is creating the growth. So we have a big advantage while we are in the emerging markets. First of all, we have to use this chance. The biggest thing that we have to check for is checking what we can do in our own emerging markets where there is the real growth. So we have to check also the global market, because we are talking about global giants. But we know that the famous story, I think this is an international one. We also have the Turkish version about a monster having only one eye in the middle of his, in here. So he has some place where you can hit him and you can kill him. So the global companies has also their own deficiencies, and this is they are not fast. Well, here we are the fast companies. We are fast enough that we can change and adapt faster than them. So this is a big advantage when we are talking about how we should penetrate the global competition. I think we should use our own possibilities, like our market. This is our first strength, and our fast thinking and fast moving. this is going to be the biggest advantages that we can have against the global competition, I think.
I forgot one thing.
Please.
Important one. I think our products are halal. So I think that is one of our competitive advantage. Because Indonesia is the largest Muslim community country. And with halal certified products, I think it brings reassurance to consumers around the world.
Thank you, Yohanes. Scott.
Thank you. I've got two observations to build on these other ones. First one is, I think most of the markets that we operate in as an emerging market, if I use that phrase, is a place to practice. It's your test bed, it's your home base. You can see most of the customers in your market and you have a chance to really explore how they buy. The second piece is to go global, you need to understand how they buy. And if I can say this as an ex-American, now global citizen, if you assume that America is the market and you sell the same product in the Middle East, they're not going to buy it. So what you need to do is take your local market experience and find out what the customers in that other market really need. And if that means different packaging, different colors, different price, different positioning that says it's halal, and then you go to a non-halal country, that doesn't work so well in terms of the needs. So you need to be very adaptive on that. The second piece that I would say about going global is speed to market. And therefore, speed to market means your product has to be triable quickly. Facebook's a great demonstration of this. I don't need somebody to give me a dummy's guide to it. I can use it today. So if you can make it tangible and triable very fast, that's great. And that's what I would encourage all of you who have products to do, is make sure the market gives you feedback and you can make it triable quickly.
Thank you, Scott. As you've all embarked along your successful entrepreneurial journeys, what governmental leadership, funding, mentoring programs have you found to be most effective in assisting you along the way? We are in a room where there are many governmental sort of leaders, and so it'll be really interesting to hear examples from India, from Turkey, from Indonesia, from Silicon Valley, that have been very supportive of entrepreneurs as they go along their journey. Maybe, Scott, can I put you under the spotlight first?
Thank you for that opportunity. I'm going to start with 1 minute of background. T2VC has offices in 8 places in the world, including the UAE. And one of the things we've learned is that we're a living lab. We test ideas out around the world in different markets, from Palestine, as we've talked about earlier, to Saudi, to Colombia, to the US in areas that haven't been so successful. Part of that has created an environment that economic development is changing, and we've been working on a concept of the rainforest. And the rainforest is different than farming, because farming's job is to put the same crop in and get the same result. So you pull out all the weeds. The rainforest is about the weeds are the best part of it because they grow up to be something significant. And almost all entrepreneurs are weeds initially. They get told that it shouldn't work, it can't work, there's problems with it. So that's why they have special needs, in my view, which are different than traditional business people who go to university or vocational institutions. Most of the universities don't teach entrepreneurship. Excuse me. Where you get entrepreneurship skills is from somebody like yourself who's already built a bakery and been extremely successful, and they assist somebody else. Those programs are not well cultivated. They're almost like the black art. There's something beneath the covers that isn't talked about a lot. And I encourage everybody to help push things like that. The other ones is the pre-bank financing, one of my danger zones of discussion, which I noticed today I don't have any bankers on the panel. If an SME starts at 5 million in turnover, what does an early stage business startup do for funding? They have to go to friends, they have to go to angels, or they have to have something that's a brick and mortar to leverage. That's really hard. So today, almost all the people in the audience that are trying to raise money, how many of you are trying to raise money? Okay, about half of you. Most of this room outside, or sorry, the people outside, there's about a third of them that are people with money. One of them's right here. He's setting up a fund in January and you need to talk to him. The government needs to help create programs to encourage early stage investment, not growth and deep mezzanine level, if I may that.
Thank you, Scott. Would anyone like?
Hi. We have been having reforms from 1991, and I think it's been 12 years now, so where most of our reforms are actually picking up really well. And as a country, SMEs, we actually have 20% of our total funding of the banks to have to go to SMEs as a rule. So how much has that been strictly followed is a question, but we do have those rules in place. As investors, we are any emerging economy. I agree with my friend there where rules keep changing, politicians keep changing, so you have to adapt to those rules, that's one. And we have been doing extremely well on infrastructure, so where currently the infrastructure companies are down, where you actually say success introduces you to the world, whereas failure introduces the world to you. So we actually had seen a success on infra companies for the last 5 years, where we have been terribly overrated. I think now we are terribly underrated in our country. So where infra is still a major one, and we have good enough investor reforms for infra. We have beautiful tax laws in place, which are quite robust, and we had a constitution which is 60 years old, so which is pretty good as a democracy. So we have never had a civil rights kind of an issue ever in our country, so that's good enough. Predominantly, so that would be the predominant tax laws in place for us. And infrastructure-wise, power-wise, gas, or you can take any labor-intensive economy or basic infrastructure like airports, seaports. So we are really a country to be investing and looking at on a long-term basis.
That's great. That's great.
I think I've been trying to understand the question actually, but I think if you ask me what sort of governmental or leadership examples that promote entrepreneurship, I think in my context, in my context, I think it is more doing it by yourself rather than going into seminars or things like that. But in the context of a country, Indonesia, I think being an entrepreneur is not encouraged, but I think it is not the culture or the value system in the country is not really good for you if you want to be an entrepreneur. So I think maybe something to do with the education system and things like that.
Thanks, Yohanes. Yavuz, would you have any thoughts?
From the point you have mentioned, because I also strongly believe that what governments has to do, the first thing is to build the trust. This is very simple. If there is a trust, stability in a country, then you can have people who are interested in investing, who are interested in doing business, new businesses. And you also need the culture, and the culture comes with the trust. Because while we were last year at Harvard, in the All World Harvard Summit, we had the Inc. magazine editor, Mr. George. I was surprised when he said that the average, he asked us, what do you think about the venture capital? How many % will be the venture capital usage of the first 3 years of an US company? I was expecting to have so big numbers, but it comes out that only 30% of the companies use venture capital in the US. So, and the reason was very simple, because the companies wanted to have their own business in their chest. They didn't want to give it to somebody else. But the other question that he asked, that he said that there was a survey in the US asking the people what kind of future for their children they would like. And 70 or 80% of the people, they would like their children to be entrepreneurs. But in the emerging markets where I come from, while I understand my friend come from Indonesia, this is not the case. People like for their children safe business in government, in military, so they feel that it's more safe. And also one more interesting point is that self-made prosperity sometimes in these countries are not well understood or well interpreted. I think this is also an important point. And it comes, who will change this? This is, I think, your question. The culture and everything should go from the government. This is maybe the key point of the government, more important even than the finance, because this will make the people to invest and to go for entrepreneurship. The rules should be very straightforward. The government should be at a place where he's making the rules, and the rules are very clear for all the players.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that insight. One last question before we open it up to the floor for questions, and please, anybody feel free to respond. I want to talk about the social responsibilities of leading successful organizations in emerging markets. Let's talk about examples of initiatives that you've tried to build into your business models and the effect that these have had. Scott, Yavuz, I know we've discussed.
Thank you. I'm going to share a couple because my colleagues have lots of ideas on this when we've been talking about this. One of them has been this issue of government giving aid or support or training to early stage entrepreneurs and founders. We've found that this doesn't work very well. If you give it to them, they don't value it. So they need to be some level of exchange, even if it's a small amount of money. But what's even more important is to create a social contract with those people. In the social contract, we've tried in Palestine, and it's worked quite well. We've done it in Saudi, we've done it in the UAE, we've done it in the US, is that if you get services from the government, your obligation is you have to share those services with 5 or 10 other people. It doesn't mean it goes into you and stops. You are to share it with other people. So if you get assistance to go overseas on a mission, and you go to the UAE for the first time, from Turkey, let's say, your job is to go back to Turkey and explain what the experience is like for that. And that's a significant change in the expectation that it's about me at the center and I get it as a zero cost. The second one is that CSR is important for companies, but most of them don't want to dole it out unless there's some real known public benefit. So we're finding that a lot of the groups that are getting support today are women mentoring groups or women training, because in the Middle East, there's 50 or 100 million women that are being turned on to the workforce based on the societal changes. Lots of the CSR activities now are saying that's really good because that'll stabilize the future. And I'll just put that out there as an activity for my colleagues to jump on.
Thank you, Scott.
CSR is actually a relatively new concept for India. Predominantly, we're a congregation of towns and villages. Most of the CSR was done by the owners themselves, out of the personal money, what they get out of this thing. So CSR has become a rule in India now. I think 2% of your profits have to go into CSR. As Scott's saying, we actually don't know what to do with that. So we actually are trying to build in models where the CSR can be taken forward responsibly. Apart from that, we have been very big companies in India like Tata's or HCL who have invested quite a significant amount of their monies into education and into healthcare. And I think some of the best healthcare and education in India are run by private or by private companies on those lines. As CSR goes, yes, we are a country, we still have to learn CSR and actually try to invest exactly what goes into a CSR. And actually, our framework is still very loose on how exactly can you contribute for a CSR.
Our main CSR activities actually is hiring workers from the community and buying services, support services from the local community. For instance, catering services for the workers. We buy from the neighborhood. So far, we haven't really been involved in the CSR events. Normally, it tends to be something, what is now the buzzword is something CSR, I think. What is the buzzword of CSR these days?
Social responsibility.
Philanthropy, yeah? I think that is philanthropy. But that's somehow charity-like somehow. But we don't do that so much. I think, as I mentioned to you, I think it's directly going to the community where we operate. Thank you.
Thanks, Yohanes.
I would like to also agree on the subject that the time has changed. Now, today, we are going to have Professor Michael Porter's also live connection, I think, here. And one of the subjects that we have learned also in Harvard is the shared value. I think that's very important because philanthropy was giving away, social responsibility is doing with yourself, but something needed more than that. You have to do something together with the community, and you have to build your money, you have to earn money, and at the same time this running system should benefit the community that it's serving. So I also believe that philanthropy is good, but it is not something that is sustainable. Or social responsibility, it's not enough itself. So I can give you an example. In 2008, we are a company in Turkey producing plastic food packaging and disposable, exporting to 90 countries. So we were thinking of investing somewhere with our, let's say, a little bit older technology, because each time we have to renew the technologies. We had some alternative countries, and one of them was Palestine, because we had a very good partner there, very good distributor, and because of the background and historical background, we feel ourselves very close with this community and very strong trust between each other. So we said, okay, why not? Let's look at it and let's go and see. So when we go there in Palestine, in Hebron, we have seen that there is a big amount of people who are very well educated, even more well educated than my country, the average education level. They are well educated. There is unemployment there. There is lack of business, and there is lack of confidence, and there is lack of courage to do business. There is mainly trade, but nobody is making a strong investment on industry over there. So we check the market and we find that it's possible. We can make a business here. We trust these people and they trust us. So we said, let's have a go. I think this is important, taking the risk. So we took the risk together with our partners there. We made a new company and we started producing plastic disposables, simple products, cups, plates that's used in the daily lives of the people in 2008. And this business grew. What happened at the end, I'm not going to give long discussions, but what happened at the end is this company now is operating there. It is, compared to our own business in Turkey, it's smaller business, but it is the biggest one in that region. So, and it's exporting to Jordan. It's exporting even to Israel from there. And the good thing is that there is about 4 or 5 more people copying our business and trying to do the same. And I'm happy about that because this is something positive. That's the multiplying effect. And people see that, okay, our friends come from Turkey and made this investment. It's going good, so we can do the same. There were a lot of suppliers supplying us the goods. They also earn money. We also earn money. So it was a system that we were together building up a system. There were more copies, making paper cups, other things. So I was really, really happy about this business because we earn money, because we earn the community, and the community earn money. And it's a sustainable business.
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause to Yavuz and the gentleman on that. I'm going to open it up to the audience. We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Please, a question, remember, is a sub 20-second stream of words with a question mark at the end.
To all the members of
Please.
whoever would want to answer, when we talk about entrepreneurship in emerging markets, how do you differentiate, or how do you define an SME versus a startup versus a small business? How do you differentiate and who do you support?
Thanks, PK. That's a good setup. This is an interesting definition. I'll try to give a short answer so my colleagues can. A startup is typically somebody who, or an individual, who has converted themselves from an entrepreneur to a founder. They've declared that they have a venture. We typically find that a big changing point, and there's probably 100 entrepreneurs for every startup, because there's a lot of people thinking about it and they've got good ideas. So those are ideas people or entrepreneurs, and when they become a startup, they get the first F in their name, which is a founder. And at the second stage, we look at an early stage as a business that's transformed themselves from 1 or 1.5 people to probably 5 people, but it also has a co-founder. So they've got some leadership sharing at the top end. So that goes from an F to a CF. The third stage we normally look at is growth. And growth means you're no longer selling in your own market. I'll take Turkey. I've seen all the people that I can see in Turkey. I'm now going to Jordan and I'm going to sell in Jordan. That's a growth business, and at that point you have to engage distribution channels that you've never had before. So we look at it as those are the 3 stages. I personally don't like the SME label, because the SME label seems to catch everything from an individual business up through, yesterday I was told by the bankers, 100 million in turnover. So I don't think SME is a good label any longer.
If you allow me very quickly, I'll share some experience from Saudi Arabia. Over the last couple of years, the Saudi government has really stepped in a major way to help support effectively startup businesses. They've launched programs around the Centennial Fund, the Kafalat program. NCB is a major supporter of these initiatives. And it's really businesses that go from either an idea, a business plan, and the startup implementation phase, to businesses that have a sort of revenue of approximately, I would say, up to 5 million riyals. Now you are starting to see, for the first time, institutional investment funds coming into the market that are doing sort of Series A, the first institutional round of capital that can help scale these businesses from strong proof of concept. You have some customers. You may not be profitable, but the investor will have good, solid clarity as to how you will make that leap into profitability. And then there are a greater number of players, both in the kingdom and also regionally, and I also include sort of institutional family groups within that really do partner up with businesses that are profitable, have strong growth prospects, and can be taken all the way up to becoming sort of national leaders, national champions. Any other questions? I saw a hand.
Hi guys, this is for the entire panel. What are some of the challenges you face when you're building a sustainable workforce? So, when you're hiring employees in emerging markets, what are some concrete steps that you take to train these people? And most importantly, how do you retain these people? Especially, Hisham, you said you have a lot of competition coming in to emerging markets. How do you prevent foreign firms from coming in and robbing talent from domestic entrepreneurs like yourselves?
I'll start first, perhaps. I think in every business, your manpower, your people, is the most valuable asset. I think that is very true. I think in my case as well. So your question is about how do we start up recruiting the right team in developing countries such as Indonesia. In my case, is that you have to start with few people, but higher quality one. I know it is more buzzword, easier said than done. But the point is that start with fewer good quality people, look after them well. You have to be competitive in your remuneration, and then you have to incentivize them. And then from there, because when you have your strong lieutenants, then the lieutenants can look after the more people, soldiers down the line.
I think that you have to keep them at your chest, because you are in an emerging country, you have a factory, and then besides you there is another factory, and he can offer better prices. So the thing is, first of all, you should give good salaries. You should know how to share it, because there is no other way. Because if you are not going to give the right money for the right people, then they should go away. That's simple competition. Another thing is that about education. You have to educate them. But there's a big mistake that we do always as businessmen. We educate people and we continue to give them the same salaries. No, that would not work. When we educate them, we should increase as much as the knowledge that they have. So it's a part of the life of an emerging market company. You have to keep your people at your chest and you have to make them happy. That's the only result.
Let me just add very quickly. I think communication is also very important. When we invest in a business, it's very important to communicate to all levels of staff the direction that we're going. You know, people will stick, want to be part of an exciting journey. And that's really where I encourage entrepreneurs to constantly revisit their business plans and communicate it and share it with all members of their team. Because if you can communicate a vision, we are here today, we are going to be there in a couple of years, people will buy into that vision and will stick along. The other thing that we try and introduce into businesses are, as Yavuz said, sort of compensation schemes that reward staff. That was, very rare in Saudi Arabia, where you're treating management, all staff, almost as partners as opposed to employees, and really that creates tremendous energy within an organization. I think we have time for maybe one more question. I see a hand over there. Or
hi. My question is more related to investments into...
sorry,
is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is more related to the investment appetite, which, some of you coming in from the venture capitalists and the capital world look at when you're looking at niche businesses. As I'm a part of a startup, founded it, we have come across about 3 years now. Some businesses have a long sales cycle. And very often you see investment appetite which is into businesses which are very focused on a quick return or a model which can replicate very quickly. With the advent of the internet world and a clicks per usage kind of scenario. What is the appetite with investors into this kind of businesses? They are niche, they are productized, and there is an intellectual capital behind it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
So I said the products are niche, they have an intellectual capital, and then there is a real product behind it.
Okay, are you...
I'll give a shot on it because it was a little hard to hear part of the question, but here's what I think might be part of the answer. There's different stages of investment nowadays, and most of it for the investor is to get comfort with the business. So when you have a long sales cycle, as you mentioned, one of the things that we're seeing is proof of concept funding, which is very specific, as a gate. And it may be 50,000, maybe 100,000, but it's proof of concept that the product or service works in the environment that you're talking about, especially if it's a 6 or 12-month type product. The other one is proof of market, because if you only do it once, that's proof that your brother will buy it. It's not proof that the market will buy it. So you need to have a proof of market approach, and that needs to be validated. At that point, angel investors are more likely to become participants. Institutional capital or round A are interested because they see some data points. But if you have long sales cycle, you need to find a milestone they'll invest in.
Thank you. I hope that answered your question. I think the organizers are telling me to cut this short. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been a great audience. Thank you to all our panelists. Sorry, Yohanes wants to add something.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is one thing that I'd like you to walk away from this room. If you don't remember anything about what I said, but I think there is one message that I want to get across to you. If you are ever to invest in an emerging market such as Indonesia, get a local partner. And getting the right partner is very critical in building your business. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that, Yohanes. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to our audience. Thank you for being here, and have a great day.